It'll be fun.
Today is brought to you by Silvercrest Opportunity Fund. Invest accredited for a 10% net return for terms as low as 1 year. Investing like Warren Buffett. All right, so we are back on the Mobile Mailbox Money podcast here today with Hannah Johnson, episode 30. Got a special guest here today, another member of Business Network International. So happy to have some fellow members in the room. Doing business with people you know, like, and trust is important, and that's why BNI is great, because I get to sit down with like-minded individuals and see what's going on in the industry. Hannah, if you could just introduce yourself for the viewers that don't know you.
Absolutely. I'm Hannah Johnson. Hi, nice to meet you. I actually am a wealth strategist, so I help individuals with their money. If they want to invest in market products, awesome, we can handle that. Gold, silver, insurance products, indexed accounts, property. We help get them directed to the right people that can handle whatever it is that they're looking for to be truly diversified in their portfolio versus just diversified maybe in market products.
Absolutely. Pretty unique. Yeah. When investors go out and try to get takes from conventional financial advisors and things of that nature. I think alternative investments are more needed now, possibly more than ever. Maybe you could just touch on that, on what you're seeing out in the market, and kind of, what's your take on 2025, here 6 months in?
Well, I think we can look at the previous generation and really see what's happening there. I don't know about you guys, but my mom's near that retirement age, and There's not enough money in there because all she was taught was to invest her money in the market products and trust the 401k. Right. And more people are realizing that, crap, maybe I didn't save enough like I thought I could trust in that product. So that's where I think true diversification into other products, so that when the market and the economy crash, we're not as affected as much of just market products. And that's where gold and silver and property and real estate can come in as well. Super beneficial and helpful to make sure that we're investing what we're comfortable with.
For someone that may be a conventional stock investor and they're looking out in the market, trying to make sense of finding tried and true vehicles ultimately to have a safe, stable return, it's pretty scared at any given situation out of non-comfortability with moving forward. And you're told to diversify, at the end of the day, and that's tough to do. For the clients that are coming to you, what are kind of some of the major topics that come up when an onboarding happens? I would assume it's a lot of uncertainty and things of that nature. What would you have to say about that?
It is uncertainty because all of their products are, or all their money is in products that are tied to the market. And so when the market crashes, they're afraid the money's not going to be there when they need it the most and when they're wanting to rely on it the most. So that's what I am hearing, as well as taxes. Because a lot of times all those market products are tax deferred. And here we are, we're seeing that Social Security is being taxed as of right now. We see the IRMA tax, that we get to pay more taxes depending on how much money we take out of the tax deferred accounts. And then of course that also hinders and really the cost of Medicare and Medicaid are skyrocketing, which is we're all wrapped up into those repercussions of doing the tax deferred accounts. So that's really what they're scared to death, that they can't pull out enough money or else they're going to be penalized hefty, scared to death that their money's going to not last as long as they are in retirement. So they're going to have to go back to work. So that's why people are just throwing their hands up and saying, forget it, I'll just work the rest of my life. That's not always a choice, right? Sometimes things happen and we're forced into retirement.
Life's dynamic and so is the market. Not everything works forever. At the end of the day. So to try and be nimble, and your strategy is of utmost importance, because, if the market drops $2 trillion, randomly because of a tweet or whatever it may be, it's important to position yourself in order to be, I call it bulletproof. Mm-hmm. You want a stability in your portfolio, whether high net worth or not, to be able to stave drop in the stock market, to stave fluctuations in single family pricing, You don't ever want to have all your eggs in one basket, at the end of the day. Hannah, how did you get into wealth strategy? Kind of interesting to be in a niche within finance. A lot of people go conventional FA or, go work for Wells Fargo or whatever it may be. What made you get into wealth strategy as that vehicle?
Great question. I was actually a commercial insurance agent, really high performing. I was one of the top performers in the region. And I kept hearing these business owners call me, say, I can't make my monthly payment. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I know how much income your business brings in. I know what your revenue is, what's going on. So some of it was a budgeting issue and, not really having structures like an accountant and a bookkeeper to make sure they had a trajectory up and had the cash flow there. But it was also because of the unpredictable things that happen in life. Absolutely. The accidents, the cancers, the heart attacks, the health situations. And that's where I found living benefits, which is I closely relate it to a life insurance policy, but you don't have to die to use it. And that's what kicked me off into the financial world, because I had no idea that there was a protection piece to actually protect people's finances. We're all about accumulate, but we don't put that layer of protection underneath. And we always have to protect first and then accumulate. So that's what launched me into the financial. And then as soon as I learned about that, I started learning more about how unreliable and unpredictable the market is, how there's better products than some stocks and a lot of bonds that we can actually put our money into, let it grow, and then have choices near the end in retirement on what to do with it. So I just took it and ran with it.
So you saw people struggling, you saw possibly how you could help, opposed to just going in and not having any avenue, to change people's lives. You already were seeing people of hardship, yes. And like, hey, I could probably position myself and be successful because this is a need out in the industry. I think a lot of people don't end up setting up that foundation until they end up getting to being accredited or whatever it may be, just because we're living fast, making good money in W-2 or whatever it may be. And it's tough to slow down sometimes, to take the time to evaluate finance and, tax qualifications, tax strategy. Yes. For the people that are waiting to do that, obviously it's better to do sooner than later to build your foundation. How would you go about, those first steps to build that solid foundation? You talked about potential of like life insurance policies and stuff like that. I like the borrow against ability of infinite strategies. Kind of touched a couple topics there, but what would you have to say about that?
I think it's an important piece to almost every strategy, honestly, because the reliability and that dependability of an insurance product in a portfolio, that if you don't get to the point where you're getting X amount of dollars in your portfolio and you die too soon, right, that self-fulfilling piece is golden, especially for your heirs and especially business owners, right? You never know what's going to happen. You never know if a COVID situation is going to happen and you're going to need to pull that money out. Where if you have it all in tax-deferred accounts, you get penalized if you pull that money out. So liquidity is huge. And one of the only pieces that grows your funds liquid and tax-free is an insurance product. Not to mention, insurance products are a tier 1 asset. There's only 3 tier 1 assets: gold, cash, and cash value in a life insurance product. And we have forgotten that. Walt Disney built Disneyland off of cash value of his life insurance policy, not because he borrowed from a bank or anything else. He needed the cash, filed bankruptcy multiple times. The only way he was able to build Disneyland and start his enterprise was from cash value of life insurance policy. And people are like, oh, insurance is bad. Not really.
It depends on how you set it up.
Yes.
And who helps you strategize. It's got to be set up correctly, exactly. At the end of the day. They say life insurance is the only insurance they guarantee you'll ever use. And most people don't even know how to use it at the end of the day. But I love that ability to borrow against, either to buy other properties or whatever it may be. And then you're becoming the bank. Exactly. Essentially, you're becoming the family bank and setting up checks and balances, ultimately to have those accounts grow tax-free. Not a lot of other avenues to do so. You have some tax deferred accounts like IRAs and stuff like that, where you can invest in property. But, great overall strategy. You got to mitigate taxes, because for a high net worth investor, what's the number one cost for them? It's probably taxes.
Taxes, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And there's also other strategies that we partner with attorneys that have some really cool trusts that most attorneys have never heard of. But on a high level, there's some really cool trusts that were specifically designed for property investors to mitigate that capital gains tax when you're buying a lot of property.
And mitigate liability too. It's ultimately, call it a cloak, of assets, because you don't own anything technically. The trust owns the properties and the cash flow and the return on investment. But if someone were ever to search your name, say guys, Bill Gates, don't want to be able to search Bill Gates's name and have people see what they own. So, multi-tier, multi-facets of why that's great out in the market. For people looking for tax strategy, that specifically, are you guys offers tax CPA, or kind of maybe touch on that lightly?
Yeah, it's not in my agency, but we have partnered with some national trustees that have definitely set up those types of accounts and structures to help with our clients that are a good fit for those. Yes.
Absolutely. So Business Network International.
Yeah.
Fellow member. I'm a member of the Connectors. Which chapter are you a member of?
Peak Performers.
The Peak Performers. When do you guys meet? What day of the week?
Yeah, we meet Tuesday. So tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock in the morning.
9 a.m. Yeah. Love it. If you're not familiar with BNI, it's a networking group based on referrals. So you get together with other like-minded individuals, ultimately in the want for the same thing, which is success, more business, to have a stand in the local market, ultimately to be a tried and true avenue. When did you join BNI?
Honestly, just this past January.
Love it. And how has it been for you so far?
Oh, fantastic.
Great connections, absolutely. I'm assuming.
Yeah, my business has exploded.
Love it.
Absolutely no complaints.
I think a lot of people are afraid to drink the Kool-Aid with BNI. And, I was kind of the same way in the beginning, but it works if you work it at the end of the day. I was referred Hannah from one of my chapter members. So, wouldn't even have met, honestly. Yeah. And this is great synergy because we offer real estate investments and things of that nature with the fund and note investments. So, would love to see how we can additionally capture and maybe even do some lunch and learns or whatever it may be to garnish more individuals, ultimately for the want for financial freedom.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day. What do you see going on in the market right now? The Fed just came out and didn't do an interest rate reduction. Yep. I'm sure your clients are asking kind of, how to pivot. And we can't give financial advice, but we can talk about possibly, how to mitigate a loss situation. How would you ultimately, envelope a conversation like that to, for someone that's kind of scared and uncertain of what's going on?
Well, we are in scary, kind of uncertain times. We have a president that's doing the things that he's doing, which we haven't had in a while, kind of shaking things up.
Big shakeup.
Yeah, absolutely. And our economy is an emotional economy. It
Absolutely.
Really is. Even the thought of changing tariffs, we went down 15%,
right.
Which who knows what's going to happen next.
Time will tell.
So that's why people are now looking for other ways to make sure, I want the gains of the market, but I don't want any loss when the market crashes. And that is where we're able to come in and help with accounts called indexed account. I know a lot of people are like, oh, I know those are indexed funds. No, they're completely different. And indexed accounts are a lot like chameleons. We can label them different things. We can attach them to other products. We can really have some fun with them, and they give us that guarantee of no loss. So I'm not saying put everything in one basket like you said before, we definitely don't want to do that, but diversifying into different areas and avenues, gold and silver, property, a bunch of different things will help us make sure that when the market crashes, we still have all these other things that are growing and thriving and will be fine.
Absolutely. Index funds, that's a cool topic. What are some common questions people ask about index funds when they come to you? Is it kind of term, or is it, how that's calculated? What is that?
An indexed account or an indexed fund?
Index account, and
index
we'll
account.
talk about index funds after that.
Okay, so an indexed account, a lot of people haven't heard of them because they're kind of like pension plans, right? They're going to be there no matter what. And of course, pensions have gone away in our world. Companies have said, you know what, we don't want to actually provide a pension for you. We want you to be responsible for your own retirement. And people don't think that they can have their own pension account, and they can. That's controlled by them. It's really kind of a cool concept if you actually take a hold of it and embrace that. So it really is just putting the responsibility into your lap, and you control the account, you control the decisions versus the company controlling it. And a lot of people think they're scary and they don't want anything to do with them. Okay. It's exactly what the companies were doing for us years and years and years ago when our grandparents would offer pensions. You can do the same thing by yourself. It doesn't have to be through a company.
Index funds.
I'm going to leave those to my financial advisors. Yeah. Right. I stay in my lane. My financial advisors, they utilize index funds a lot in a plan that I have with my clients, and they love them to an extent. Right. But there's not that much growth a lot of times in index funds, and there's usually other things that we can do. Same thing with a lot of stocks. There's a lot of different things that not stocks, bonds, a lot of other products we can use that grow better and honestly are way more beneficial to the client. So
we talked about stocks, we talked about index accounts, we talked about infinite banking policies and life insurance. In real estate, are people coming to you looking for real estate investments, or are you advising on that? What does that look like?
I don't advise in that. I let my individuals that do syndications and a lot of things like you do advise on them. That's when I just pull them in and I say, hey, let's partner together with them and get you what you want, whether it's through mobile homes or commercial buildings. I have a lot of connections to syndications that individuals are actually really loving that guaranteed amount of income.
The syndications that you guys are talking to, what's kind of the asset class? Is it multifamily? Is it storage? Or kind of all the above?
I don't have a connection for storage, but I do have multifamily and I do have commercial buildings. So I believe it's Class B commercial buildings are actually the ones really still thriving, because a lot of companies pulled out of their commercial buildings because everyone's working from home. That's coming to, for some companies, an end, especially with the government workers. They said, go back to the office. But there's that Class B that's in there that's still thriving and really, really good occupation amount. So we're having fun with those.
All of that's really interesting to see the development of those different strategies. A lot of hardship on one hand, which creates opportunity at the end of the day. Because of commercial financing terms of 5 years, a lot of the multifamily complexes that were going under contract and cash flowing a couple years ago now have to refinance, and it creates an issue. So it's important to do business with the people you know, like, and trust in order to make sure that you're mitigating a potential loss, because there is risk in investment at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
So, Hannah, who's your avatar? Who are you looking to talk to? Who's great client? If someone's suffering from this, reach out to me.
Yeah.
What is that?
Well, multifaceted, of course, but I really love working with those business owners. It doesn't matter if they're just getting started. Let's get them started for success so they don't make those mistakes and learn along the way. We'll guide them through that. Those business owners that maybe are growing and expanding, growing as in and hiring employees, maybe don't have the funds to do a 401k, but yet they need to hold on to the staff and offer benefits to make sure that we're not constantly losing and then hiring, and the retention and the cost of retention can be a whole lot less than continuing to hire and train and just for them to leave. And then of course those individuals that are nearing retirement, they're like, well, wait, do I have enough? Did I save
there's
enough?
More.
What's going on? Right. Like, how do I make sure what I have is going to last as long as I do and protected? We are in the generation and the generation before us that we didn't really worry about long-term care. So a lot of individuals now, it's super expensive, hard to qualify for. Now they want the protection because they see the value as their bodies are deteriorating.
And Social Security may be going away.
That's a big red question mark. Yes, absolutely. So we don't know what's going to happen there. So actually making sure that no matter how old you are, you're putting that protection in place, whether it's a little bit, it can definitely help you down the road and we can grow with you. It doesn't matter how young or old you are. So the business owners are my main focus though, because I love the fun, the drive, the creativity, and their inspiration to really help others, not only their staff and help the community, but also help their family as well.
Call it I forget the name, but the guy running the circus, that's what business owners are, out running circuses. The ringleader. There it was.
Yes, they are.
For the people that have reached out to individuals before and they're kind of on the fence, or they think it's too much, to rip the Band-Aid or whatever it may be, if they are hesitant to reach out, is it pretty easy to kind of just have a conversation? Or, is it just immediate kind of trying to direct things? What does that look like for someone that's maybe hesitant today? Because I think a lot of people reach out, to like conventional FAs and stuff like that, and it really may not have been what they were looking for. What would you have to say about that?
Let's have a conversation. I definitely do things different, a variety of options, not just market products. So I'm happy to talk with anybody, and I might not be a good fit for everybody, and I accept that. My methods and my ideas are definitely different than financial advisors, which is perfectly fine, and it works for some, but not all. But
what are some cool things that you've done recently? Any events or, what would you have to say? What's going on with Hannah Johnson?
Yeah, I actually do a lot of, we call them Money 101 workshops to really teach people how money works, because we're not taught how money works in school. We all learn 1 + 1 = 2. However, we don't necessarily learn financial math and how the money actually is affected when the market goes down, and the impact of taxes and the rule of 72, time value of money, all that kind of stuff. And even if we did learn it, we don't know how to implement it necessarily in an effective way. Absolutely. So I do these money workshops. I do them virtually for my out-of-state individuals, but I also do in live in-person one at Rudy's Barbecue. So if you like barbecue, you want to come. The next one is on the 26th, which is August 26th, which is a Tuesday at 6 p.m. It's the Rudy's Barbecue on Higley and Baseline here in Gilbert. And we really just go over the basics that maybe you have forgotten, you probably already know, but forgotten, and then how to implement them and some ideas that might work for you. If you want help implementing, always here to help. But if not, cool, now you know. Have fun doing it yourself.
So how would someone contact you? Where would they go to check you out, to call you, get on your Calendly? How would someone go approach that?
Yeah, everything's on my website. It's HLJgrowth.com. So it stands for Helping Lead and Jumpstart Growth.com. There's click the Meet option on the front page, and you can schedule time with me, or you can look at my calendar of events. I've got Wine, Women, and Wealth events for the ladies, where we can talk about money over a glass of wine and safety and security of no men. But if you want to bring your honey with you, come to the barbecue in Bucks. That's more towards the guys. Grab yourself a beer, come eat some barbecue, and let's talk about some money. So we have a couple different options.
You got stuff for everyone.
I do.
Inclusive.
Yes. Absolutely.
Any other events worthy of conversation? Maybe some that you're not throwing. Are you attending any like real estate conferences or wealth strategy conferences? I always love hearing what people are attending. Yeah. Because traveling and meeting different people is of utmost importance.
Yeah, absolutely. I just came back from one where I was a speaker. I actually
Congratulations.
Yeah, it was really, really fun up in Denver, Colorado. So that was a blast. But actually next week I'm going to Nashville, Tennessee to learn how to really help individuals, especially business owners, with the tax strategy. There's some really cool tax strategies that are actually have come out in the last several years that maybe your CPA doesn't know. There's a difference between a regular CPA who just looks at the pass and files taxes versus a tax strategist that is on top of all the different rules and the regulations. And hey, if you did this, next year, we could save you an extra 20% on your taxes. Well, why wouldn't we do that? So having that tax strategist and that individual that's educated themselves on some of those opportunities and highlight when to get that tax strategist involved is super important. So that's what I'll be doing coming up this next week.
Love it. What's the attendance fee?
$200.
Pretty cheap.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
Most us $400 to $800.
Yeah. No, it's only $200. They keep it low for a reason. They want people to know with all the changes that are coming out there. It's important to know.
Yeah. I'll have to pull your arm about that.
Okay.
Later. They have the Alternative Asset Summit coming up in October, and that's thrown through Directed IRA. Directed IRA is a trust company to custodianize your IRA investment into alternative assets, whether it be private lending, note investments, fund investments, and that's in October. So Directed IRA, we've done multiple transactions from our investors using them as a custodian to buy notes, invest in the fund and stuff like that. So if you're interested, would love to let you know about that event. It's at Orange Tree Golf Course. Oh, actually, it was at Orange Tree last year. I'll have to get the actual location, but it's in October. Love to just get out and network, Absolutely. At the end of the day, in-face is important, ultimately to see if you get along and things of that nature, because you do business with people like, and trust at the end of the day. So today is brought to you by Silvercrest Opportunity Fund. Invest like Warren Buffett. That's Mobile Mailbox Money, the podcast, episode 30. Go check out Hannah's website. Get on her Calendly. Start taking one step closer to your want for financial freedom. Hannah, appreciate having you on the channel today.
Thank you for having me.
Bam, 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 bam. Perfect. See how long it takes me to end this.